We are researchers and we like to combine design and sustainable development. So I think this is a very natural progression from the other speakers. Our mission is to act as a catalyst for change by engaging design in sustainable development. And as you, Tara, brought up, we need to explore people's assumptions about a good life, but also bring abstractions to life. And I will show you two examples of how we work, projects that we have been doing that are examples on this, how we, with design method, could bring these things to life. The first one is a car-free year, and it was not about food at all, but it was about car, another very strong norm that a normal family in Sweden are expected to have 1.4 cars and so on. So we wanted to check that. And the research question was, how could the city be designed to welcome car-free families? And the setup was that we kidnapped the car from 3 families with kids and followed them during 1 year when they have to cope with light electric vehicles instead. So that was the study, and from that we made design concepts on how could we redesign the city in order to encourage others to become car-free. So during this first year, the families were exposed to a lot of hinders, but they were also highly rewarded in their way of living. And I think one interesting point, as a design, we want to get to the source, and that is people themselves and how they think about things. So this was a very important part of the family's experiences. So we gathered those, and they were boiled down to this workbook that was handed over to a design office that we collaborated with. And together with them, we created a number of concepts on how we could encourage people to become car-free. And I think it's a lot about the gesture that you send as a policymaker, etc., that you feel rewarded when you take this step. This is that you could have a cargo bike for rent from your employer or something. This is that you have dedicated seats in the bus in order to make children go by local traffic on their own and so on. And I think the project was successful in that respect, that we met with the politicians and we get a lot of presence on. So I think that shows some of the power of design approach. The other example is around creating this vision. How could we bring these abstractions to life? And we like to work with backcasting, that is creating this vision, and from there looking at what would be the necessary steps to take today in order to reach that vision. We call the project Prototyping the Future, and we wanted to create this positive image of a sustainable future that actually works. So it's down to the tiny slice that we have of the world carbon, whatever, share and so on. Sara Ilstedt, that you will meet in the later panel, was head of this project. We had Josephine Wangel, that was in future studies, and we worked together with the design office. So we didn't do any research around the boundaries, but that was a book, Images of the Future City, and I can never resist saying it's this thick and it has no images in it. Only a lot of text and digits. But we brought this into this website that is an interactive prototype that you can try a day in life, a sustainable society in 2053. So please try it. Here's a few spoilers. So we paint the backdrop where we are at. There are some news flashes from this year. We also promote the idea that there's not one single way to live sustainable, but rather a wide range of them. So you make a few choices, whether you want a lot of time or a lot of money, and so on, how you live. And that influences your sustainability budget, so to speak. And then the plot is that you should have some people over for dinner. And here comes the food. So we have different options, but they come with different price tags as from an environmental perspective. and you make these choices. There's a lot of extra information in this prototype that you can get down to. And finally, you get this kind of idea of how you spent your footprint on different parts. So you can make this journey a couple of times. So that is yet another way to bring all these abstractions to life and to show a positive image of this is the way we could live. And it will be different, but it will not be a poor one. Thank you.
Thank you, Teo. We'll go on, and thank you for bringing up such concrete examples here, which is very helpful, I think, for us ahead now, thinking in new ways to reach these ambitions. And I'd like to welcome David Cuartielles, who is the co-founder of Arduino, which is something very interesting, also very concrete and very successful. When this is a successful platform, which is actually brought to the general public, millions of people are using this today for different projects, different prototypes. So David will be able to tell us how that worked and possibly even give us some inspiration to how to use this in our ambition with this meeting to talk about changing our way of dietary pattern, our way of eating.
Okay, thank you. Since we're in Stockholm, I have to make some marketing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm an assistant professor at Malmö University since 16 years ago. Beautiful place, fantastic open office spaces that we all hate. So if you get an opportunity to come down, let me know. I will ask a student to guide you through it. I'm also the head of the Institute of Interactive Objects, which is a very anarchistic laboratory for students, the co-founder of the Arduino platform. I don't know if you're familiar with it. This thing was created for students to start building their own projects, and we sold millions of this thing. It's open source, so it's been copied massively. I'm an advocate for open source, and I just took this picture while I was listening to one of the presentations right now. Last week I was awarded with the Ashoka Fellowship 2016. I don't know if you know what Ashoka is. I had no idea 6 months ago. I'm actually really proud to be in this network. And at this moment, somebody was asking us, this is the 4 fellows for 2016 in Spain, what passion drives you? Or what's the passion that drives you to build all these projects all the time and keep on inventing new things? And everybody was talking about like their families, their kids, and so on and so forth. And I said, sugar. I'm a sugar addict. I'm sorry. I am one of the 52%, well, sorry, I'm one of the people that would actually prefer to eat artificial food. So I'm perfectly fine with eating artificial food. So I'm here to talk about the death of nature. This is a talk I've made once before, and I'm pretty concerned about the fact that I'm going to be thinking the complete opposite of most of you in this room. I'm perfectly fine with it. By the way, I'm a beef eater. Literally, I like beef as well. I guess that comes with my culture. So, but this talk is about thinking critically about a completely different alternative to all of these problems from the things most of you are thinking about. So if you look at the definition of what nature is, there is like a lot of things you can look into, but the real definition of nature for me is the definition of what is the unexplored. We don't know what it actually is. So we cross the door and there is something out there that we don't know what it is, and we're going to go and discover it. Unfortunately, in the world right now, the world we live in, we know everything. Like we know we're fucking it up. So we know we can fix it, right? Or we believe so. So nature doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately for you guys, I'm sorry. Just face it, nature's dead. So it's also changing the perception of what it means to be human. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm a professor in design. So I'm approaching this thing from a very theoretical point of view, but so the question is, what is it to be human? And I tend to look at this, looking at design patterns. You know, I look at how people behave, what people do, and yeah, how we can help them by using expert systems. This is one of my favorite flashy slides. I invite you to look at it for 5 minutes. If it was flashing faster, you will get epilepsy attacks. So I'm not allowed to show them to teenagers. It's the same thing as taking LSD. But basically, in design, we try to solve everything looking at design patterns. So what is that people do right that can be replicated and done multiple times? You know, if I design an interface, for example, for a website, just take something random or a mobile phone application, what do I do to make it so that people interact with it properly, in a natural way, without having to face too many burdens or have to learn too many complicated things? For real, I actually deal with interaction design. That's why I mentioned a user interface. So everything that I say about design patterns is translated into, you know, machines we operate all the time. Like how do you turn knobs and press buttons and control different things and so on. And what is an expert system? An expert system is a system that learns from people and then can do things in a similar way. Like if I look at this room, for example, I can say most people are dressed in black clothes. If you look back, you could disagree with me. Oh, there's a guy there with a blue jacket. Or this lady here, she has like this red and green square jacket. Good taste. I wear black because I have like no idea what to wear in the mornings. But to make a system that actually can make this decision is pretty hard. You need somebody that is an expert in a field to train this kind of machine. So how does an expert system look like? You get an expert. For those that know design, that is Don Norman. For those that don't know what design is, you have to read Don Norman. And this expert will train a machine, and will create a knowledge base, which means he will tell this machine everything he knows about a certain field, and that will be used by a certain engine through a user interface for somebody like me, which is basically like the low version of Don Norman. I will never be Don, but anyway. And if I want to solve a problem, I will check here, and the system will be able to tell me, oh, Don Norman will do it this way. So I can have a machine that would play Don Norman's role. But you can have inference machines for anything. You can have an inference machine that is being trained by a farmer to grow a plant properly. So you don't need to be there checking out how much water you need to give this plant for this plant to grow properly, or how much light, or whatever else. You can also make an inference machine that will be able to look at this amount of people here and make a decision saying, yeah, most people are dressed in black. You can have multiple dimensions. One of my favorite things to show is this inference machine that is capable of anticipating your drawing and even animating it. So that the designer draws a couple of lines on how he wants things to be, and the machine fills in the blanks in between. Just to make it clear, this was published at SIGGRAPH, one of the most relevant computer conferences in the world. And it's a machine that, by just drawing a couple of, like here you draw like a couple of parts of the fish, and the machine knows, oh, you're drawing a fish, and fills in. The red lines are designed by the machine automatically. I just have to approve it. So the inference machines can be extremely complex, and they can anticipate many of our choices for us. So nature is being disrupted up to this level, up to the creativity level. We don't even need to think about what we want to design. The machine can design it for us if we train the machine properly to do this for us. But let's step back for a second. Right now you're very scared. And this guy dressed in black is killing everybody on Earth and is putting robots to do everything for us. Or actually for robots, because there will be no more people. There is this other field called the Internet of Things that I'm sure you all know about, that I'm a researcher in the Internet of Things and People laboratory in Malmö. And it's a field that is considered to be very important, because the idea is that you could actually gather data from more or less everything and make decisions with expert engines that could then command a lot of different things. It's kind of like 1984, but the good 1984. And IoT is actually affecting us up to the physical level. And there's been research conducted for many, many years, and this is one of the in my eyes, best examples. This is Steve Mann, and he's the man that invented the term wearable computing. And do you see his first prototypes in the 80s, and his whole process up to today. So everything he was carrying down there is now in his glasses and this kind of control in his hand. So this is how technology has evolved. So now he really has what we could be calling a wearable computer, something that is normal clothes, looks like normal clothes, but can allow you to make super complex operations. And many of you are actually buying wearable computing devices, for good or for bad, like smartwatches, Fitbit bands, whatever. These things are just capturing information from you as a living being and sending it up to the cloud where there is an expert system that is making decisions for you and letting you know, you didn't burn enough calories today, you need to burn some more. You should not eat so much sugar, David. And thing is, and I'm very concerned about food production. I know that Tara is not so much. You said it. No, but you said consumption is more important. But I'm gonna link my talk to yours now. Look at this. Look at this. Give me 5 minutes. You're gonna love it. So I think food. I got lost. I'm sorry. This is overwhelming. Stockholm, capital city and stuff. Nobel Prizes, whole thing. Yeah, but food production happens to be one of the less technified fields that exist inside the industry in general. And there is some research done, like for example, this one is at MIT, is a whole project about making food servers. Is considered to be a food server. There is food servers and there is food computers and there is food printers. So you could actually produce your own food. And probably the first commercial endeavor in making a food printer, so to say, is a FarmBot, which is a printer that allows you with your tablet to control where you want to plant your crops. And it's a CNC machine that goes around and puts the seeds and then waters them differently depending if it's a lettuce or something else, and has different heads to plant your seeds and water them, and that's fantastic, like to press the weeds. It's like you go to your tablet and say, I have a weed on the coordinate 3,5, and takes out the weed for you. It's crazy. When you can just go with your hand and do like this. But you can have the printer do it for you because it's a lot cooler. This is what robots can do, people. But for real, what happens is that 30% of the Earth's land mass is used for food production. And that's a lot. And what I'm concerned is that this would be reduced if we were making a more efficient use of land. If we're using more like hydroponic ways of planting and producing a lot more artificial food. Artificial, not in a sense it has to be artificial, it can grow by itself, but we can completely control the environment that makes it grow so that we could optimize the food production in so many fantastic and beautiful ways. There is this one study, and that's not New York, by the way. I know many people here have been to the States, even though you don't want to go now. But there is a study that proves that the whole population of the world could fit in the size of Texas if we had the same urbanization level as the state of New York. So don't you think that New York is super cool? Wouldn't you like to live in New York? I mean, why are you in Stockholm if you could be in New York? Like the weather is a lot better in the summer, is equally sucking in the winter. But imagine, okay, maybe for you in Stockholm it's not so cool, but for a lot of people living in New York it's the absolute paradigm of the most beautiful thing. We could fit the whole people in the world in the area of Texas, and we could leave the whole rest of the world for itself. So nature could develop by itself. So nature could actually exist, because nature does not exist anymore right now, because we know where every stone is. We have beautiful pictures. I don't know if you've seen this project from Carnegie Mellon that looks at this. Well, I could go on like this. I wanted to do, actually, I have two more slides after this one. This is from a study from IBM for 2014 that comes to say that food production, the agriculture, is the less computerized field, industrial field in the world. This is called Democratizing IoT, and it's a study that I think everybody should read in the world. So if we just put a bit more effort and IT effort on food production, we can reduce the amount of land we use, and we can improve the life of nature. So optimizing farming is possible, technically possible, which means that since our consumption shapes farming, we could shape the way we want nature to be. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, to bring in yet another very different perspective here. And we're looking forward very much to see you on the final panel. Because I expect this to be a different perspective also from the next speaker, who is Malin Lobell, who is an artist. She's a gardener, she's a graphic designer. She has spoken to me and mentioned interesting concepts such as plant intelligence, food respect, and participatory art. So it'll be interesting switch here to another concept of mine, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm the opposite. If you say death of nature, I'm thinking that the human is compost. From earth we coming, and to earth we will be, like in the Bible, actually. It's a very short talk now, so I've just got in to show you a few projects connecting to this food issue. And how to change what we eat, and how to work. And this participatory perspective, I think, is very important when you're working with environmental issues. Oh, I have my little apple here as well. Yeah. So what about the future was a project 2 years ago, working in a school together with 9-year-old kids, 30 of them. They had sustainability on the schedule, and it was a pilot project that would interesting to take part in, to be integrated in the school schedule around this issue. And it was possible because of a very engaged teacher, I think. The students worked with, it was water, a lot of food issues, pollinators' roles. And my suggestion for their work to be presented was to put it out into the supermarket, the local supermarket. Both important to actually put out their work in everyday location, where the issues were presented in a way. And they were talking a lot about labeling, organic, fair trade, and so on. And then so I used it. We were also recycling material for the project, using the signs and so that the shops usually use, but telling some other kind of stories and information in a way. And this was to focus on the pollinators' role for food production. The students were making these drawings, studying the pollinators, the bees and bumblebees and so on, and then I scan them and make them like small stickers that we in the fruit and green department there put tagging with these bee stickers on the. It was some way trying to point out the importance of the bees, you can say. They also worked with water. One kid was very concerned about this, that is so little sweet water and a lot of salt water. And he's made this prototype that he said to me that, ooh, I like filtering the salt water to sweet water. It probably not work, but maybe a grown-up will see this and they will solve the problem. They were also working, we were talking about the waste of food in the shop and compost, some making compost. There's also recycling, a way of recycling. Another project is that I'm working with the city farming movement. I'm one of the initiators of Stockholm Stadsodling Stockholm, urban gardening network in Stockholm that started 2012. Stockholm is still a little bit slower in this urban farming movement than Gothenburg and Malmö, for example. Someone say that it is because Stockholm is so beautiful, so why change things that's working in a way? Anyway, this is from 3-4 years actually dialogue with district administration, the city council, to identifying spots that could work for urban farming more than these boxes and more like being like a hobby. The intention was to have more perennials, bushes and more based like agroforestry system, but also working with more biodiversity and ecosystem services. So now we have, this is the first season, and now we have a spot at Bellevue Farm, or Bellevue. It's rather close to here, 10-15 minutes walk. And I just want to point out what my role both as gardener and artist is this participatory project and knowledge transfer or knowledge production, learning processes, and that I think that in the, it's a lot about talking. I mean, the worst story I've heard is that a child saying to his mother that, "Mom, why have they putting up the apples in the tree?" That's, I mean, we are so disconnected, and that's not new, news others, disconnected from nature in a way. So, and that have been realized in this project, that it's a lot about talking, doing, and it's also this social, that doing it together. This is together gardening. Yeah, and it goes on. Also this with tastes, and we'll be talking about here, that the kids that actually, here is no hot dog kids actually coming here. They testing the edible weeds, and they trying on, there are two guys here, David and Maya, laughs when the tongues turn black from the aronia berries, and they, you know, and we have little Noah that's really loves jello, and then we go into eating the seeds from the sunflower, and we're eating the leaves from the marigold flower, and yeah, it's a way of experience and taking part of the food. This place, and then I see this is just the ground and the base for a kind of platform for investigating further on. The garden is the platform that we're working together, and then you can put in different perspectives and issues around farming, biodiversity, and environmental issues. So for next year, we're planning to have a program both with art and inviting science and researchers to the place. And I think it's we are allowed to have beekeepers as well here, or bees, and so on. And it's also a very important way to use the public space. I call it a citizen garden and food park. Yeah, but on the way to this, I mean, this is how to find space for food in a way. This was during the dialogue. We couldn't get enough space. This is the most, do you call it stone? Yeah, Stenstaden. So there I had a guided walk with the district administration and in public, just to find out what's actually are edible in the parks today, and how we could intensify or change some of the bushes to edible or berry bushes instead, and so if we don't have so much space. So I think it's, I mean, like everybody says here, it's not one solution on the problem. You have to find different kind of solutions, and here is both to get to know what's actually, what you can do with things, yeah, in the city. And I also been involved in this. Gröna linjen was also some kind of extension of Stadsholm in Stockholm that had 2 bicycle safari tours around, just to, yeah, connect people, connect different kind of city farming initiatives, and also finding new places, trying to identify new places that it could possibly be farming. And it was also working, we were a group of landscape architects, geologists, ecologists, artists, farming, and so on. And during this, which also is to the left, there is a a solar cellar cinema that showed films. We have a no waste cooking from another artist, and so on. Yeah, and that's from, yeah, this with plant intelligence. I think also that we're talking about animal rights, and it's also time to talk about plant rights maybe. And when you were talking, Elin, I was also thinking about my sister. sent a picture that her daughter came home with this orange that she had made like a little figure with 2 eyes, and said just, "Oh, mother, today I couldn't eat this one because it looks like someone, a person." And if we got awareness about got aware and also include plants in these rights, maybe we have to be more food respect, or have respect for. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malin.